For years, the sun had not shone over the forgotten kingdom. Instead of rain, fine black ash constantly fell from the heavy gray clouds onto the cold earth. Dressed in dark steel armor, Sir Valerius rode his horse slowly up the rocky path. The deep scratches and dried bloodstains on his armor showed the heavy price of his past battles. The knight was the last living executioner of the Order of Bones. He was heading toward the Obsidian Castle on the highest ridge of Misty Peak to carry out the king's harsh command. His task was to kill the ancient dragon and bring back Princess Elenia, who had been taken years ago. But the knight knew the real reason behind this mission. The king did not care about his daughter's life. He only wanted the dragon's blood, which was believed to hold the secret to eternal youth. Halfway up the mountain, the horse took its last breath and collapsed onto its knees. The knight jumped down and kept walking on foot without looking back. The giant bronze gates of the Obsidian Castle were already broken into pieces. Near the entrance, the air smelled heavily of sulfur and burnt flesh. The castle yard was covered with the bones of hundreds of knights who had come here before, calling themselves heroes. Valerius walked into the vast throne room. As his heavy footsteps echoed, the wall torches suddenly burst into red flames. In the dark corner of the room, a giant shape moved like a living mountain of black rock. It was Fafnir, a massive dragon with pitch-black scales and eyes like melted gold. A stone throne was attached to the dragon's chest with heavy black chains. On that throne sat Princess Elenia. The princess looked nothing like the helpless girls from old fairy tales. Dark veins spread across her face like a spider web, and her silk dress was ruined by soot and blood. There was no fear or hope of rescue in the princess's eyes. She simply looked at the knight with a cold, sad smile. The dragon let out a low roar and tried to rise, but when Elenia placed her hand on its massive head, the beast instantly calmed down. The chains were not wrapped around her body. They grew directly from her skin, joining her to the dragon's dark scales. Valerius stopped in his tracks. He realized that the princess was not a prisoner at all, but the true guardian of this cursed land alongside the beast. The real monster destroying the land was not the dragon, but the old king who sat in his palace, draining the life of his people for immortality. The knight remembered how the crops had failed, and how the king grew younger every time a life was sacrificed. Doubt filled his mind. Suddenly, a loud crash shook the outer walls. Guards in bright silver armor and the king's personal sorcerers burst into the room. At the front stood King Aldous, looking young and full of life. His eyes were wild with greed and a hidden touch of fear. Valerius took a step back. He drew his sword and pointed it not at the dragon, but at his own king. The knight finally understood that the crown he had served for years was built on nothing but lies and dead bodies. Black magic flames shot from the sorcerer's hands. Despite getting wounded, Valerius raised his shield and charged directly at the royal guards. The dragon opened its jaws and turned the king's sorcerers to ash with a wave of black fire. Pure chaos filled the hall. Gathering his remaining strength, Valerius lunged at King Aldous. Their swords met, and with one strong strike, the knight pushed his blade straight through the king's armor. The king fell lifeless onto the cold stone floor, and his silver crown rolled away into the bloody ash. The fight was over. Valerius dropped to his knees, bleeding heavily from his wounds. Breathing became a painful effort. Princess Elenia walked up to him without a rush. She cut her wrist with a small dagger and let her dark, magic-infused blood drip over the knight's open wounds. The knight's heart stopped, but a burning power began to flow through his veins. His eyes slowly turned a glowing golden color, just like the dragon's. As his wounds healed completely, the knight stood up. He was no longer human. He was the new protector of this fallen kingdom. Valerius stepped on the bloody crown, crushing the silver metal into dust under his boot. He took his place beside the princess and the dragon. Together, they stepped into the shadows and disappeared into the endless rain of black ash.